High in the Key Mountains of Japan, a sacred city rests. Surrounded by mist and old cedar trees, Koyasan is a place people visit to connect with their spirituality. It's a peaceful place, far away from the bright lights and busy streets of modern Japan. Here, time seems to slow down, the air feels special, filled with the energy of hundreds of years of prayer. It's a place where the line between the real world and the spiritual world feels blurry. Koyasan, which means High Wild Mountain, is a fitting name. Built in 816 AD, it has over 100 temples. These temples are tucked into the green mountainside, showing how important spirituality is to Japan. Koyasan isn't a city with busy streets and markets. It's a quiet place for thinking. It's a place where people come to feel connected to something bigger than themselves. The mountain air is cool and fresh, smelling of pine trees and incense. It's a nice change from the humid air down below. The only sounds you hear are the temple bells. These bells chime softly in the breeze, their pretty sounds echoing like the rhythms of the universe. Koyasan gives you a look into Japanese spirituality. It's a trip to a place where nature and faith come together. Koyasan is more than just a beautiful place, it's a living museum of Japanese Buddhism. In 2004, UNESCO, a group that protects important places, recognized how special Koyasan is. They made it a World Heritage Site. This important title shows how important Koyasan is for its culture and history. It also helps protect it for the future. The temples of Koyasan aren't just old buildings, they are still used for worship today. Monks in traditional robes walk the mossy paths, their footsteps echoing through time. People from all over the world come to Koyasan. They want to feel its special atmosphere. They want to learn about the teachings of Kobo Daishi, the person who started Koyasan. Kobo Daishi, also known as Kukai, was a great leader and very smart. He made Koyasan the center of Shingon Buddhism. This type of Buddhism focuses on mystical practices and becoming enlightened while you're still alive. You can feel Kobo Daishi's presence all over Koyasan. You can see it in the beautiful temple designs, the bright colors of the mandalas, and the peaceful faces of the statues. Koyasan is also known as a gateway to the afterlife. It's home to Okunoin, Japan's biggest cemetery. Okunoin is a huge cemetery. It stretches for 2 kilometers through a thick cedar forest. The forest is said to be over 1,000 years old. Huge trees stand like silent guards, their roots tangled with the mossy tombstones below. The air is very quiet, with only the sound of the wind in the trees and birds singing. Over 200,000 people are buried in Okunoin. Emperors, famous monks and regular people all lie together under the tall cedars. Each tombstone, worn down by years of wind and rain, has a story to tell. It reminds us that life doesn't last forever. It also shows how much people need to feel connected and remember those who have passed. The path through Okunoin leads to the tomb of Kobo Daishi. People believe he is meditating forever. They believe he is waiting for everyone to become enlightened. Twice a day, monks bring food and incense to his tomb. It's a ritual that has gone on for over 1,000 years. Visiting Okunoin is a humbling experience. It's a trip into the heart of Japanese spirituality. Before Koyasan was a city of temples, it was a wild place with tall mountains and thick forests. In the year 816 AD, a young monk named Kukai, later known as Kobo Daishi, climbed into these mountains. He was looking for a quiet place to practice his special teachings. He didn't know then that he was about to start something that would change Japan's spiritual history forever. Kukai wasn't just any monk. He was very smart, a great poet, and a powerful leader. He was born into a rich family so he could have had an easy life. But he felt a strong pull towards a spiritual life. At 18, he gave away everything he owned and joined a monastery. He studied Buddhist writings, learning all the teachings, both simple and complex. He wasn't happy with the regular Buddhist teachings of that time, so Kukai traveled to China to find deeper truths. He spent years studying in the monasteries of China during the Tang dynasty. He learned from wise teachers, exploring the secrets of esoteric Buddhism. This is when he learned about Shingon Buddhism, a type of Buddhism that came directly from the Buddha himself. After years of hard training, Kukai had a powerful experience. His teacher, Huikuo, officially passed on the Shingon teachings to him. With this new understanding, Kukai went back to Japan. He wanted to share this powerful path to enlightenment with his people. He looked for a quiet and spiritual place to teach. He felt drawn to the Ki Mountains, to a place called Koyasan. The Ki Mountains were already considered sacred in Japan. People believed gods and spirits lived there. The air itself felt full of ancient energy. As Kukai climbed the mountains of Koyasan, he felt a strong presence. He threw his Vajra, a special tool that represents wisdom and enlightenment, into the air. It landed on a flat area covered in mist and old cedar trees. He knew this was the place. Here, among the tall trees and the soft winds, Kukai built his monastery. He named it Kongobuji, the Temple of the Diamond Mountain Peak. This was the beginning of Koyasan as a sacred city. News of Kukai's teachings in Kongobuji spread fast. People at the imperial court heard about him being a holy man and a smart scholar. Emperor Saga, a strong Buddhist, was interested in Kukai's teachings. He gave Kukai his support, giving him the things he needed to make Koyasan a major center for Shingon Buddhism. With the emperor's help, Koyasan grew. Temples and pagodas were built among the cedar forests. Monks from all over Japan came to study with Kukai. The mountain city became a place of learning and spiritual practice. Koyasan wasn't just a quiet place for monks, it was also a center for art and education. Kukai was a master of calligraphy, poetry, and engineering. He supervised the building of roads, bridges, and irrigation systems, showing how Buddhist ideas could be used in everyday life. With Kukai as their leader, Koyasan became a busy religious community. People from all walks of life came there. Emperors and nobles made the hard trip up the mountain paths. They wanted spiritual guidance and peace. Regular people came to show respect, burn incense at the temples, and ask for blessings for their families. Kobo Daishi's dream for Koyasan went beyond his own life. He believed everyone could become enlightened. He taught that through meditation, rituals, and being kind, people could understand who they really are. He said it was important to live peacefully with nature, understanding that everything is connected. Kobo Daishi's teachings were important to the Japanese people. He was remembered long after he died. People say he went into a state of deep meditation in a tomb on Koyasan. This belief made the city a sacred place for pilgrimage. People from all over Japan and eventually the world would travel to Koyasan. They wanted to honor the great master and experience the spiritual feeling he created. Over many years, Koyasan survived political problems, natural disasters, and changes in history. Through it all, the city stayed a strong center of Shingon Buddhism. The temples still echoed with the monks' chants, the air filled with the smell of incense, and the whisper of ancient cedars. Koyasan is still here today, showing how powerful Kobo Daishi's vision was. It's a place where the line between the real world and the spiritual world seems thin, where the whispers of the past mix with the hopes of today. At the center of Koyasan's spiritual landscape is Kongobuji Temple. This large temple with its big roofs and beautiful wooden design shows what Shingon Buddhism is all about. Kobo Daishi built Kongobuji himself, and it's the main temple of the Koyasan Shingon sect. For over 12 centuries, it's been a place of wisdom and compassion. Walking onto the temple grounds feels like going back in time. The air smells strongly of incense and old cedar. Carefully raked gravel gardens surround the temple buildings. The main building, the kondo or golden hall, is a masterpiece of religious art. Inside, there are beautiful paintings showing the life of Buddha and mandalas representing the universe. One of Kongobuji's most famous features is the Banryute Rock Garden. This carefully designed dry landscape garden is one of Japan's largest. 140 granite rocks of different sizes representing mountains and clouds are placed in a sea of white sand. You're supposed to look at the garden and think about it, not walk on it. It makes you think about life and how things don't last forever. Kongobuji isn't just a place for old art and architecture, it's a living center of spiritual practice. Monks in traditional robes perform their daily rituals, their chants and prayers echoing through the halls. Visitors can watch these ceremonies, light incense at the altars, and pray for peace and enlightenment. As the sun starts to set, making long shadows across the cedar forests, Koyasan feels even more mysterious and sacred. This is when people go to Okunoin, Japan's largest and most mystical cemetery. Here, among giant cedar trees that are thought to be over 1,000 years old, more than 200,000 people are buried. Walking into Okunoin feels like entering a different world. A path, lined with old stone lanterns and mossy stupas, winds through the thick forest. The air feels heavy with history and it's very quiet, except for the sounds of birds and leaves. It feels both spooky and peaceful, reminding you of the cycle of life and death. Along the path, thousands of tombstones, worn down by years of wind and rain, stand like silent stories of lives lived. Emperors and regular people, monks and businessmen all lie next to each other, their differences forgotten over time. Fancy tombs for lords and their families stand next to simple stone markers with flowers and incense. The path through Okunoin ends at the tomb of Kobo Daishi himself, the founder of Koyasan. Called the Torodo, or Hall of Lamps, the tomb is lit by over 10,000 lanterns, some of which have been burning for centuries. People believe Kobo Daishi is resting here, not dead, but in deep meditation, waiting for everyone to become enlightened. Twice a day, monks bring food to Kobo Daishi, a ritual that has continued for over 1,100 years. Walking onto the grounds of Danjogaran feels like going back to the very beginning of Koyasan. This sacred area is where Kobo Daishi first started his monastic community in the 9th century. It's a very important historical and spiritual place where you can feel the energy of centuries of devotion. The main building at Danjogaran is the Konpon Daito, a tall red pagoda. Built in 835 AD, it represents the perfect mandala of the two realms in Shingon Buddhism. Inside, a central pillar symbolizes the connection between heaven and earth. 4 Buddhas, representing the 4 directions, look out over the complex. Around the Konpon Daito are many temples, halls, and pagodas, each with its own story. The Miedo has a special statue of Kobo Daishi, while the Fudo-do is dedicated to Fudo-myu. More than the individual buildings, the real beauty of Danjogaran is its overall atmosphere. The smell of incense mixes with the fresh mountain air. The sound of monks chanting mixes with the sound of leaves in the cedar trees. It's a place where time seems to stop, where visitors can escape the busy world and connect with something deeper. Garen in the Garden Temple. Most temples in Koyasan are known for their big halls and detailed carvings, but Garen Inn is different. It's known for its quiet beauty. Called the Garden Temple, Garen Inn is a place of peace and contemplation, where the ideas of Zen gardening are perfectly expressed. Here, among carefully raked gravel, mossy stones, and carefully trimmed trees, visitors can experience the balance between nature and human art. The main garden at Garen Inn is a great example of a Koyasan style, or dry landscape garden. White gravel, raked into swirls, represents the ocean, while carefully placed rocks look like mountains, islands, and even a mother turtle protecting her babies. You're supposed to look at the garden from the temple's veranda so you can appreciate its subtle beauty from a distance. Besides the dry landscape garden, Garen Inn has other gardens, each one special. The Moss Garden, a carpet of bright green, feels like a secret forest floor. The Pond Garden, with its colorful koi fish swimming under water lilies, shows the changing beauty of nature. Garen Inn is a place to walk slowly, look closely at the details, and let the peaceful atmosphere calm you. Like all Zen gardens, the real meaning of Garen Inn isn't what you see, but what you think about when you see it. Inside Konpon Daito, sacred texts like the Mahavairocana Sutra and Kongocho Jio are kept safe. These texts are full of important Buddhist teachings and practices. These sutras are very special, offering wisdom and inspiration to everyone who reads them. Koyasan's 8 mountain peaks are like the petals of a lotus flower, a symbol of purity and spiritual awakening. Each peak has its own special energy and stories, like Mount Beniyama, connected to Buddha Amitabha, and Mount Jizo Gatake, dedicated to the Bodhisattva Jizo. These peaks form a natural mandala, creating a quiet and peaceful place. Walking the mountain paths, you can feel a change in the energy. The air feels cooler, the quiet feels deeper, and the sacred feeling is stronger. The idea of a mandala is very important in Shingon Buddhism. At Koyasan, the mandala is seen in the natural landscape. The 8 peaks, forests, rivers and waterfalls all make up this living mandala. The forests, with their tall cedars and old pine trees, are sacred groves that represent long life and wisdom. Walking through these forests is a special experience for all your senses. The rivers and waterfalls represent purity and life energy, cleaning your mind and washing away bad things. People often visit sacred waterfalls to feel clean and new again. Nature at Koyasan is a big part of the spiritual world. It shows how the divine is present in everyday things. The monks of Koyasan live peacefully with nature, understanding that all living things are connected. The forests are sacred groves, protected with respect. The tall cedar trees, some over 500 years old, are amazing to see. Special trees marked with Shimenawa ropes show that a kami, or spirit, lives there. These ropes remind us that unseen forces live in nature. We should treat them with respect and reverence. Life at Koyasan follows the rhythms of nature. The changing seasons make the landscape look different all the time, with lots of colors. Visitors are encouraged to slow down, take deep breaths, and feel connected to nature again. Koyasan lets you escape the busy modern world and find peace and quiet. Whether you're walking through cedar forests or meditating by a waterfall, Koyasan invites you to enjoy nature. As night falls over Koyasan, the mountain becomes very quiet. Staying overnight in a shukubo or temple lodging is a special experience. Guests take off their shoes and put on slippers, then go into simple rooms with tatami mat floors. The simple setting helps you think and forget about your worries. Guests can join temple rituals like chanting sutras and evening ceremonies. As the night gets late, the quiet and peace of the temple surrounds you. You fall asleep dreaming of ancient chants and the smell of cedar and incense. As the sky starts to get light, the monks begin their daily rituals. Guests in the shukubo can watch these sacred ceremonies. The sound of a wooden gong means the day has begun. Monks chant and read sutras in the main hall. Guests can have a traditional Buddhist breakfast, focusing on being mindful. As the sun comes up, guests can explore the temple grounds, meditating in the morning air. Watching the rituals of dawn at Koyasan is humbling and inspiring. Shojin Ryori, traditional Buddhist vegetarian food, is a special part of visiting Koyasan. It focuses on purity, simplicity, and harmony with nature. Using fresh, seasonal ingredients, Shojin Ryori chefs make beautiful and delicious dishes. They don't use meat, fish, or any animal products because Buddhists believe in ahimsa, or not harming living things. Shojin Ryori chefs use vegetables, tofu, beans, seaweed, and mountain vegetables. The dishes taste like the different seasons, from spring bamboo shoots to winter stews. Shojin Ryori is a special kind of cooking that is very tasty. Besides the temples and rituals, the most important things you experience at Koyasan are encounters with yourself and other travelers. Koyasan helps you be yourself and see our shared humanity. It offers peace and tranquility that goes beyond language and culture. Visitors connect with their spiritual side, look for guidance, or just find a quiet place to be. Koyasan changes visitors, leaving a lasting impression on their hearts. High in the Key Mountains, Koyasan shows how powerful spirituality can be. For over 12 centuries, it's been a place for pilgrims and seekers from all over the world. Koyasan is a living mandala, where nature and the spiritual world are connected. It's a place to reconnect with something deeper inside yourself. Koyasan reminds us that ancient traditions are still important today, offering comfort and inspiration. Leaving Koyasan is hard. You'll remember Koyasan long after you go home. You might find yourself thinking about the peaceful temple gardens, The lessons you learn, and the peaceful moments you experience at Koyasan are true treasures. They are like seeds planted inside you, waiting to grow. Your trip to Koyasan might be over, but your journey of self-discovery, your journey of spiritual awakening, continues. This journey isn't about how far you travel or how many temples you visit. It's about quiet moments when you think, about being kind to others, and about how you live your life. Koyasan reminds us that the path to enlightenment isn't a straight line. It's a winding path with twists and turns, ups and downs. Sometimes the way forward is clear, and sometimes we feel lost. But if we keep our hearts open, our minds curious, and our spirits ready for new things, the journey itself teaches us. And so, we carry the spirit of Koyasan with us, remembering to slow down, breathe deeply, appreciate the beauty around us, and live our lives with intention and purpose. Like Kobo Daishi said, the true purpose of life is to live it, to taste experience to the utmost, to reach out eagerly, and without fear for newer and richer experience.